Hi everybody. Welcome to a very special Prog Report podcast. We are back to doing a Prog Report Top 5, which we haven't done in a while. Two very special guests, John Boegehold and Dave Meros from Pattern Seeking Animals. Hey guys.
Hello, Roy.
Hey,
Good to see you.
good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you guys as well. We had to come up with something different for you guys to do because you put out an album every 6 months, it seems like. So,
I know you have to
you
keep
know,
up with us, right? Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, you're probably already on writing album number 6. I have no doubt.
Yep.
But anyway, we have a new album coming out soon called "Friend of All Creatures." There's been already a couple of songs out so far. If you've been paying attention, you can check out the band's YouTube page for a couple of singles, and there's more stuff on the way. Comes out on February 14th, if I remember correctly.
Mhm.
And we did talk a little bit before while this is going on. Certainly, the LA fires are going on, and we want everybody to be safe. I know we talked about, John, you've been sort of nearing close to that a little bit, but everything's been
Mhm.
okay. So that's
Yeah,
good to hear.
all good.
Yeah. And Dave, you're in California, but a bit of ways. So you're in good shape. And also, a lot of guys will know you from your work with Spock's Beard and all of that, which is always really cool. But Pattern Seeking Animals has been around for 5 years, and you have five
That's good news.
albums.
Yeah,
That's pretty amazing. I guess let's jump in a little bit before we get started with our top five. But John, talk about the new record a little bit. When did you start writing it? What's the title about, and just, some inspiration behind it.
sure. I usually my modus operandi is I start after the previous album has been we're starting to mix it and master it. Then I start writing for the next one because it takes a while to develop a lot of the ideas. So yeah, I started after Spooky Action at a Distance. I started writing right away, and I had a few things already. I always have a few things kind of in progress that don't make it on one record, just aren't finished or they didn't fit or whatever. So I wrote it. I wrote it pretty much the same pace I normally do. Uh, I think this one, what I was trying to do was make it a little more concise. One of my not pet peeves, because I've been guilty about it too, is making albums which are just more than an hour long and just so much material on it. um I started thinking about albums I liked when I was a kid, and the best albums were like 30, 38, 40 minutes. I think Close to the Edge was like 38 minutes or something like that.
Wow.
and
Yeah.
and even these days, if I'm listening, no matter how great an album is, it does. If it's fantastic, when I get into the 45, 50-minute range, I'm losing interest. And maybe that's just because of the internet and doom scrolling everything, and, and you know, uh, but I just wanted to make one a little more concise. And originally, the album was going to be like 46 minutes long, and then at the very last minute, I came up with one more song. I thought I got to put this on there, so it just nudged it over the 50-minute
Can't
mark.
help yourself.
I can't.
Yeah.
I couldn't help myself. Oh, this is too good. I don't want to wait on this one. So, yeah, that's what the deal was. And the Friend of All Creatures sings. Coming up with an album name is just always uh, just a pain, because you put out a list and you send it to the guys. Hey, what do you think? Anyone have any ideas? Any of these work? And they'll come back. No, this one's okay, and this one's okay. And it's just always I got to just come up with something unique and evocative or whatever. And one day I was reading. Uh, the Bhagavad Gita, the Hindu book, and it's the same one that the line, I am the destroyer of man. That uh, from Oppenheimer, that line, I am death, I am of death. That line, I can't remember the exact way it's said, but I came across one that says, "I am the friend of all creatures," and I thought, wow, that's kind of an interest friend of all creatures. And the first thing I always do with a band title is I go and see if there's any other band or album name uh,
Sure.
with that.
Right.
And I didn't find one. So I thought, okay, perfect. So I said, okay, I'm done. This is always such relief coming up with an album name. And then for the cover artwork, uh, I I always save when I look at a lot of artists on Instagram. And every time I come up with one, I say, okay, I'm going to save this person. I'm going to save that person. So I have a file of a couple hundred different artists when I'm looking for some
Oh
kind of
wow.
artwork. Oh, yeah, I always looking for that stuff. And I came across the one that Inga Schuster did, which you'll see the cover of, and it immediately thought, "Oh, this is perfect for the title, Friend of All Creatures." And it was okay. I'm going to this one, so I contacted her and licensed the artwork. So yeah, it was
Oh,
actually
that's
so.
great.
Yeah, again, it's always a relief. And then Thomas Everhart, who's done a lot of stuff for us and Spox and a million other people, put the whole graphic package together and based the album graphics around the cover artwork.
Nice.
Yeah.
It looks great. Album sounds great. Dave, when you're constantly getting music from John, I mean, how do you approach it? How do you attack the music? Is it a song at a time? Does he send you all of it at once, or what's the process for you?
Most of the time, it's one or two at a time. It's kind of dependent on when Jimmy finishes drums. When he finishes tracks, then I'll get what's done so far, and I'll like be the second one on, besides all the keyboard parts, which John has done, and they're pretty there. Um, so that's normally what happens. But in the demo process, John will send the demos around too, to get our opinions on those, and those are really interesting to hear. And I'll usually pipe in with something.
How elaborate are the demos? I mean, it's just
They're
like
they're pretty much done. Yeah, I'll
that's
make
wild.
adjustments later, but he works. He gets them almost 99% complete before we hear them.
Yeah, I mean that's not easy with this music. It's not simple music, right? It's not you're not taking one time signature 4/4 beat and that's it, and then laying on a couple of things. So how much time do you spend programming drums even on those things? Seems like it would take forever.
I I I don't do them individually. I will start out uh, with a song. It might just be a verse and a chorus, and I'll get all that section together. I'll lay down a drum groove. I don't get too elaborate with the drum stuff just because I know Jimmy's going to take it no matter what I put. He's going to improve it 100% easily. It's going to be so much better. So I come up with a basic vibe I want to hear, and then I work on things usually in sections. So I'll build up the bass part and all the keyboard stuff. And I usually start getting some guitars from Ted, although I usually put some guitars down, most of the acoustic stuff or mandolins or stuff like that. And so most of the stuff I put down in the demos, I always look at it like, well, this is just going to end up on the record because why would I need to redo them if I have the part I really want to hear? So I'm looking at it not as though we're building a demo, but building the actual recording of the song for the album. It's
Right.
not like the old days where you do something on a cassette and you bring it to the guys like, hey, let's play this, and everyone will come with their parts. It's very different. I think a lot of artists work like that these days.
Right. And
It's
these guys
almost
are
like a
just
it's almost like a classical composition. I mean, a classical composer isn't going to write the lead line and have all the symphony people come up with their own parts.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interlacing different instruments and doubling of things, and it's already really thought out.
yeah, actually that's a good way to look at it.
Yeah. And
That's awesome.
also I was going to say it, and also when I write, I can't because I'm just so anal about everything. I can't let something go if it doesn't sound complete to me. It's like I can't go, well, I'll come back to this keyboard part later, or I'll change it, I'll do the guitar. I have to put it down so at least it's the right part, even though I might alter it later. I have to get it to a certain level before I can move on or write other parts for it. Me, just you just kind of annoying. I annoy myself sometimes with that, but yeah, yeah,
It's amazing. I mean, in the short amount of time, you've written so many songs, and of course, you wrote a lot of stuff with Spox too, leading up to that. But I mean, in just 5 albums, that's a lot of material. So it actually played really well into this top five podcast because this was a sort of a series that we've done on the website a few years ago. We haven't done one in a while, but
yeah.
we sort of ran through every band you could do one of these things, and then
Right.
we started doing the video podcast. You move on to other things, but now I mean, you guys are a perfect timing to sort of jump in and do something like this with. So. What we're gonna do is we each picked our five favorite PSA songs, and we'll go around and just let you guys tell some stories about him a little bit. So what I need to do is move things around a little bit, and we got that. Cool. Okay.
Cool.
So that's well, that's the first album. That doesn't mean
Yeah.
that's the album we're going to talk about. So as you guys, when we pick our songs, just to tell me which album it's from, and we'll change the image there to make it sort of go with it. John, why don't you kick us off first with your number 5, and then Dave, and then I'll go.
Okay. Just before, I just want to, the way I'm judging these songs is because I don't, when an album is done, a lot of times I don't listen to it again. It might be 2 or 3 years since I've listened to some of this stuff,
Right.
but luckily I was on a very, like a 13-hour plane flight last month, and I thought I'm just going to listen. Before I even knew about this broadcast, I said I'm just going to listen to all albums
Perfect.
straight through, and it reminds me. And the way I'm judging these, because I obviously liked them all when we finished them, but now I'm judging them as in second look and in retrospect, the ones that hold up structurally, or I'm really proud of, or I don't find things thinking like, oh, I should have made this chorus shorter. I should have made this guitar part loud, none of that stuff, but the ones who stand up for me. So that being
Perfect.
said, the first one, number 5, is from Spooky Action at a Distance, which is Bulletproof. And
Okay. Yeah. Great song.
Bulletproof is one that we originally did a version of on the Spock Spirit album, Noise Floor,
Hmm.
but it ended up on the bonus disc, which may essentially be, it's like the music graveyard, and I wasn't happy with the way it turned out at all, for various reasons. And I always thought it was one of my favorite songs I've written in the past 20 years. It turned out great, and so I got a chance to redo it on this album, and I went back and listened to it again for the first time in a couple years, and it just really holds up for me. And while I like everything else on the album, that to me, it's perfectly represented the way I wanted to hear it, and it still works for me.
Yeah, I would say that's one that I remember really well too. It has a very memorable chorus,
Yeah, yeah, and
even from.
from the original version, I'd made some changes to it. I put a new bridge in it, and I changed some of the words and the structure of the choruses and the instrumentation, and so I was just happy with the way it turned out.
You redid a song for this album too, for the new
Exactly,
album.
for the exactly the same exactly the same
I
reasons.
know it was really funny because I was listening to the album, and then this song comes on, and I'm like, I know this song.
Yeah, it was on
I
that
didn't pay attention.
same bonus disc. Uh, I wasn't happy the way it turned out, and it's one of the favorite things. It's actually a new version of a much older song, and I just always loved the melody and the way it turned out. So again, I wanted to do another version of that. And my feeling on recording of that one, which is may as well mention it, uh, was that it's on Friend of All Creatures. Days Will Remember, and that one,
Right.
the same deal. We did a version of it. Me thinking, well, if it doesn't really turn out, I'm not even going to put it on the album. But it turned out great. So hopefully people will think the same when they listen to it on Friend of All Creatures.
Yeah. Okay, Dave, you got a choice for your number 5?
Well, they're not in any particular order, and I'll also do a
That's fine.
disclaimer. I had a really hard time picking the 5. I mean, I started with 23, and then I narrowed it down to 10. It was like, okay, I have to find some kind of criteria to go by.
Well,
And and
I'll
I
tell you
went
what I
with
do sometimes is as this starts to go, if a song in your 10 has been talked about, then you maybe shift to another one so
Yeah.
that it gets mentioned, you know
get
what I
some
mean?
attention.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can do that only because since you told me what the show is going to be about, I've had 4 or 5 different lists every day. It's like, no, I don't want to add this one. So don't worry about that.
That's
I can
funny.
always do that.
That's all
Yeah,
good. Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I
All
finally
right. So,
decided to just go with what, in my opinion, would have the best impact live. The
okay.
ones that would turn me on the most if I heard them live. And that's what I finally settled on. I was, not like, what do I like the mix the best? Or because sometimes, there'll be a middle section that I just adore, but it'll be a mid tempo thing that would lose people's attention when you play it live because it's a whole different trip listening at home and listening live. So I just went with the live thing for me.
cool.
Okay.
And I guess I'll just start with Lifeboat, which was
That's
on
on
Prehensile
Prehensile.
Tales, yeah.
Hmm.
And that's
Yeah.
just a great storyteller song. and you go with it, and the music changes with the lyrics, and it just takes you on this really cool journey. It's got some really groovy kind of parts, and I think that one would just be amazing live.
Is that maybe that's the longest song I think you guys have ever done, right? About 17
Yeah,
minutes.
yeah, that's the longest one I've written ever, I
Yeah.
think. Yeah, 17 minutes. Yeah, I think so.
Fantastic song. Love that album. That's a
Yeah,
favorite. Prehensile Tales is great from beginning to end.
cool.
Oh, and I was going to also say, when I had to get it down from 10 songs to 5, the 5 that I took out were all from Spooky Actions at a Distance. Because they were this close. And and
Almost. Yeah,
if we had to do a set, there's so many songs on that album that would work really well live.
Yeah.
And I really like that album. But that whole album is just filled with songs that would sound good live. So they just barely missed out. But it's weird. It
Also,
all came from that.
this album cover is great.
It
It's
is.
always been really cool and different.
Yeah.
that's another one. I found the artist online on Instagram, and I contact a Polish artist. He has great stuff, and I thought, wow, that's really bizarre looking. I have to use that. So I contacted him, and was able to license it. Yeah, I really love that guy's artwork.
Yeah, really cool.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll jump in. My number 5. I tend to sometimes force myself into a pick one from each album thing. I don't know
S-
why I do that, but I just sort of feel
s-
guilty if I don't pick something from each album.
Same.
Yeah, so I'm gonna jump back to the first record and Orphans of the Universe.
Mhm.
One of the first sort of long songs I think that you guys did. And yeah, just it's a really cool song. Again, I think I went, John, with what you sort of did, which was very easily if I go, which are the songs I remember without even thinking? And that this was one of them. I already I the chorus has never left my brain. You know what I
Cool.
mean? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's a fantastic track. I think you guys were still sort of finding your way with this album, and then I think has continued to develop where now you guys are totally have a sound.
Yeah.
Do you feel that way with this one? Did you know exactly where you wanted it to be yet, or it was sort of working its way around?
Not really, just because we didn't start out being a band when I started recording. The first album was me thinking, well, there's a couple songs I had left over from Spock's and a couple other things which I never even submitted, and I just wanted to hear live drums on them and build them up as demos. Uh,
Right.
so I got Jimmy in the studio and had the other guys plan them. Then I wrote a couple more, and then it was about 30, 40 minutes worth of material, and I thought, well, maybe I'm gonna see what the record company thinks. And Inside Out immediately offered a 3 album deal, and I said, oh, cool. And then so the album was completed from there. I think then we put the rest of the songs together. But I think if I would have known it was going to be an actual album from the start, I might have done things a little differently. But overall, I'm real happy with the way it turned out. So, but you're right
Yeah.
about finding our way, because it was definitely, yeah,
Also,
definitely
another
different.
cool
Yeah,
album cover. I like a lot of the album covers.
Thomas,
They're just they're catchy to look at. Really cool.
Thomas
All right.
Everhart. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, so we're flying here. So that was the
Okay.
first go around. What's your second pick?
From the same, and again, mine aren't necessarily in any order, but from the
Right.
same album, uh, the same mistakes again, from the
Yep.
first album. And that one, I listened to it for the first time in a couple of years on the plane, and I thought, I was really happy that it held out. It wasn't a song, because it's usual with me. Like I said, I'll be thinking, oh, I should have changed that verse, or I should have added another verse, or I should have, whatever. I listened to it, and it worked out. It flowed really great to me. And what I really like too is I decided at that point with that song to add a real, like a 13-piece string section. And I just heard it as like almost like an Elton John kind of big rock, slow plodding ballad with the strings. So I got an orchestra or a string section in Scotland to do it. And so what I had to do was they set you up with this audio system. I sent them all the sheet music, and I wrote everything out, and I sent it to them. And so they hook you up in a situation like this while they're recording it, and they ask for notes and stuff. And I had to get up, I remember, at 3 in the morning their time, and I'm up, bleary eyed, just with my headphones on, and they're playing the parts, and I'm going, "Oh, that's cool. Can we try the cello an octave lower, or whatever?" And yeah, I'm really happy with the way that the string section just turned out great, and it gave that song a real vibe.
Nice. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely great song. Okay, Dave, what's your next one?
I would pick, for the same reasons, live presentation, Stars Along the Way, also off the first album, because
Sticking with this one.
Yeah.
yeah, that one, the soft parts are really delicate and intimate, and the bigger parts are really big, and you can really do something with them live. So, that's my number 4, I guess it would be.
Also, another 10-minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very,
And, and,
very proggy.
and that was one that Dave started writing, like back in Spock's days, and we would throw it back and forth. It never really gelled. And I remember, because Dave had just really cool parts in there. And I remember when I wanted to demo this album, I thought, I'm going to go back to this song because this song can be something. So we built it up and everything. I'm really happy with the way that one turned out too.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Okay, my second song, I'm gonna jump to the new record,
Yeah.
and the first track and first single, Future Perfect Worlds.
Uh-huh.
You could check that song out. It's out now. I think it's like, okay, let's see what they're doing this time, and you just put that song, and really in the first 30 seconds, that's when you're like, okay, it's Pattern Seeking Animals. I know what I'm hearing now.
Yeah.
The sounds and Ted's voice is great. The production is awesome. Very cool track. Everything on this album is, decent length. I mean, this one's almost 10 minutes.
Yeah, it's like eight or
You got
nine. Yeah, 8 or 9. Yeah.
a few that are 8 or 9. I mean, and so, yeah, great song. I think it's a very sort of perfect Pattern Seeking Animals track for me. Kind of up tempo, has all the familiar keyboard sounds, really good chorus, just fantastic.
Yeah.
Talk about writing that one a little bit.
That was the first or second one I wrote for the album. And I actually think I wrote like the middle section first. But what I wanted to do, and I started approaching it on this one, was focusing more on backing vocals, because I'm always a fanatic about vocal blends and backing vocals and sounds like that. And on the last album, Spooky Action at a Distance, um, I think we had, besides Jimmy and Ted, 5 or 6 different backing vocalists come in. I hired to get different blends and stuff, which is cool. But this one, I wanted to focus on something consistent. And also for this one, Jimmy wasn't available to do backing vocals at all because he was touring. So
Mm.
I got Ted and then Diane Boothby, who, Dave and I have been in bands with for many, 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 many years, and worked on the last album. We were in a band together, Orphan Moon. She has a great voice. So I brought her in, and she and Ted together, and sometimes me, occasionally, like 10% of the time, there was a really cool vocal blend happening on that song. And I thought, I'm just going to keep this do this way for the whole album. So that was one approach. Aside from that, though, just writing it was nothing really different. The instrumentation, I kind of backed off on some of the exotic instruments for this album. There's like violin on a couple songs, and I play Ron Rocco, which is like a charango mandolin kind of instrument. But aside that, it's all your basic instruments, your basic mellotrons and yeah,
Right.
yeah, synth bass. But yeah, I'm happy again. Very happy with the way that song turned out. Yeah, Ted. I thought
Yeah.
Ted just kicked ass on that vocal part.
You know what? I have to shout out to Ted because, again, he just kills it on this record.
Yeah,
Consistently, forever, one of the best voices in prog, and just sometimes doesn't get recognized enough. And he's just fantastic.
Same as a guitar player. His leads.
Oh my God, he's really good as a
he's
guitar
really
player.
good. His leads are so Yeah, I'll send him something, and I'll get it back, and I'm thinking, oh, this is perfect. It's perfect. It's melodic. It builds. It rises and falls where it's supposed to, and he has a really great sense of what fits for what type of music.
Yeah, I didn't know before this band. I didn't know he could shred like that. It was
Well, he was kind
pretty
of
remarkable.
overshadowed in both Spox and Enchant by other, great lead players. So he never really got a
Yeah,
chance to step out.
yeah, for sure. Okay, so your next choice, John.
Oh, we back to number 3?
Yeah.
Um, this is again from the new album, Another Holy Grail, which is the second song on the album. It's the longest song on the album.
Yep.
And particular on this, I'm still a little close to it to be really objective, but in listening to it, to me, it stands up. It flows great. Uh, I don't lose interest as I tend to do sometimes. And usually when I'm recording stuff, if I start losing interest in this section, I just get rid of it. But sometimes it's too late and I listen later and thinking, I should have got but this song to me held together great. I love the way the Ted's vocals turned out. I'm happy with all the melodies, all the sections seem really
Hmm.
hooky to me. And there's this instrumental section in the beginning. It's almost 4 minutes long after the first short vocal part, which flows really great. And the section was actually longer at one point, and I sent it to Dave, and Dave said, it seems kind of long. Maybe you could take out these sections. And I'm like, okay. And I took them out, and it worked perfectly. So I'm really just happy the way the instrumentals flow and the vibe and the motion and the intensity. I really like on that song. There's a couple other ones that were kind of, I go back and forth as which are my favorite, but overall, I'd have to go with, Another Holy Grail.
Yep. Great track. Dave, what's your next one?
Yeah, I chose that one as well for the exact same reasons. And I think all of those reasons would translate to a really, really great live performance.
Yeah.
It's got all the right contours in all the right places, as far and including the lyrics. The lyrics have a storytelling effect too, then the music goes with that. So I think that would be a really good one to play live.
All right. Very cool.
Yeah. It moves well. Yeah.
Okay, so my third choice is gonna be Spooky Action at a Distance. It's the track Somewhere North of Nowhere,
Uh-huh.
uh, which just another one that I always remember. I love the vibe of it, very kind of up tempo, great bass line that drives the song. Dave, is that a bass line that you came up with for this, or does that come from John?
That's one of John's. It reminded me really of Chris Squire. And
Yeah.
the way he plays all other notes than the root, and the way the bass line just kind of meanders around, and I just really like it. I don't think I changed the note on that.
Oh, really cool.
Yeah,
Yeah, this is a good sort of real proggy track on this album, I think, from some of the other ones, what I remember.
Yeah. And this
You had
song is,
y-
oh, I was going to say, this is one where I wrote the bridge section first. This is really weird bridge. I had that as a separate song that I couldn't make into its own song. And so I thought, well, I'll just write a song around it.
Is that the slower kind of breakdown part?
Yeah. And it goes into almost like it's almost like an EDM kind of vibe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can't
that's
remember at the
cool.
top of my head because I haven't listened to it in a while, but
No,
yeah,
I think I know what you're talking about.
yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Okay.
I
yeah.
remember. I
Yeah.
remember one thing I changed. There was a part. I was thinking, okay, Chris Squire, I'm just going to go for it. I'm going to just try to steal as much as I can from him.
Right.
And there was one part where I just kept going up and
Oh
ended
yeah.
up on a really high note and then fell back down as something that Chris Squire may have done,
I
or
know.
something like that.
I know that exact part. It was very cool.
Yeah.
It's in the beginning of the song. It's very cool. Yeah.
And so I take these little chances every once in a while, and then I'll send a little recorded snippet. It's like, would this be okay if
Yeah.
I?
Don't hate me. Don't hate me. But I thought of this other bass. No, I'm always welcome all bass lines from Dave because he always comes up with great stuff. So yeah, a lot of times
That's
I'll just
good.
give him parts and say, okay, this is 16 bars. What do you want to do? What will work here? Or whatever. And I'll do something super basic and let him go for it because it's great.
I've got to imagine it would be rare for you, Dave, to send something where it would be terrible, right?
Yeah, no.
Well,
Never had.
some of my first ideas that I have, are just like, I listen back and I'm like, what was I thinking? Oh my God.
Yeah.
Right.
But then, you just think about it for a minute and decide to do something else, and it's like, okay, much better.
Yeah, that's one of
Right.
those things which with Prog, it's very easy to get way off on a ledge when you're writing something, and
Yeah.
you don't even know how you got there, and listen to it a year later, and exactly, it's what the hell was I thinking? What the this makes no sense. Must have made sense at the time. Yeah,
Swing and a miss.
swing and a miss. Batter's
That's
out.
gotta
Yeah.
happen. That's
Oh
gotta
yeah.
happen.
Yep.
Okay, where are we? John, your second. Well, your fourth. Your number two.
Right.
Whatever.
I'm gonna go with from only passing through. I'm gonna go with Time Has a Way.
Yeah, great one.
The epic on that one. That was around 13, 12 or 13 minutes, I think.
Yeah. Hmm.
And the again, it starts off with about 4 minutes of instrumental stuff, which is kind of different from me. For me, usually I'll start with getting into the vocal quickly and then go into it. But from the beginning of that one, I came up with this riff in, I guess it's 21 because it's 5 5 5 6, which I really liked, and I kept building it up. And this is one where I would send parts to Ted as I was writing it, and I would say, see this organ part? Play this on the guitar and see, and then or mess with it and do some different stuff. And so I would go back and forth with him, and he would send me, more parts, and keep building it, building it, building it. And I like the high energy part of it, but then it goes down to this old like 60s Streets of El Paso Western vibe, like an early 60s record. Um, uh, oh, down the old Western streets of El Paso, it's one of those. I wanted to get that vibe, and I think it turned out really, really cool on that one.
Yeah, that
It's
one
just,
just missed my top five. It was between that and another song from this
yeah,
album, which I'll talk about, but just
yeah,
missed it.
oh yeah. So I really love the way it turned out, and again, coming out of that part, Ted played a great guitar solo, and yeah, it just turned out another one of those ones where I listened to, and which is rare for me, and I thought there's nothing I would change about it. There's nothing I can't see doing. It's like there's an old saying that songs are never finished; they're only abandoned. Songwriters said a lot, which is true because once it comes out on a record, you're not going to go back to it too often. But writers always, even if things are out and they're big hits or whatever, they'll always go back and listen to it and think, yeah, I might have changed this. I might have changed this word, or I might have changed this. So this is one I listened to and thought, nope, I wouldn't have changed anything about it. It worked really well for me, and everyone just played their asses off on it. Uh,
Yep.
so it was a fun song,
Good
and it
track.
turned it
Uh,
sounds so great live too. So
right, you have played it live.
yeah,
Dave, what's your next one?
I also, like I picked one of that you chose, the Future Perfect World. And was that the one you chose?
yeah,
Yeah. Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think that one would really go over well live too. It's got a really good vibe to it. And let me see what I wrote here. Oh, the chorus, massively cool
Yeah.
chorus. Yeah,
Yeah. It's a good opening live track, I think, for you guys, for sure.
yeah.
yeah, good vibe to it.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we talked about that one. All right, I'm gonna jump back to Only Passing Through, and Much Ado is my track.
Yeah,
Um, that's always been one of my favorites. I love the guitar riff because you guys don't really lead with sort of a heavy guitar riff in a lot of tracks, and this happens to have that. And and then the chorus is just soaring. Just I love that hook.
well, here's the deal. Ted wrote that song. That's one when Ted first joined Spock's Beard, he had on the list of the songs with Hiding Out and Submerged. And I
Mm,
remember back
right.
then he had like 10 songs he brought into the band. And I remember the time thinking, wow, I really like that Much Ado song, but none of the other guys wanted to choose it. And so eventually when he got to Pattern Seeking Animals, for for the for the album for Prehensile Tales, I started bugging Ted. I said, Ted, I want to do Much Ado. I want to do that. And he says, I don't know. And I said, well, let me come up with some ideas for it. And I would send it to him, and he really wasn't vibing on it. And I said, oh, okay. So this album, I was determined to do the song in this album because it's one of my favorite songs Ted's ever written. Just cool
Yeah.
riffs and a killer chorus, great vibe to it. So finally, I got to the point where I played him some stuff. And he goes, "Oh, that's kind of interesting. Okay, he's gonna be very low key." And so I finally got to say, "Okay, let's go for it." So we arranged it and put it together, and I love that song. It's one of my favorite things Ted's ever written. So I love it.
Yeah. God, I'm glad to hear that. Yeah, that's really
Yeah.
cool. I think I remembered that he did write that. Forgot about
y-
that.
Yep. Yep.
But very cool. Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. You're number one.
Number one, from Prehensile Tales, Soon But Not Today.
Hmm.
And
Yep.
again, I I listened to it, and it just completely holds together every part. Um, like the beginning of that song, there's these guitar harmonics, ding 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 ding, which weren't in my original demo. That's something a part Ted came up with for a section later in the song, and I thought it was so cool. I moved it to the front and wrote a part of the song around it. All the sections of the song paces really well, and Prog, whatever, that goes into the section toward the end. The Prog parts just still sound great to me. Everyone's parts sound great. Um, Rich's mixing and everything on that is great. And then it goes into this love song part. Strangers, still we're strangers. Uh, once upon a time we had something. That section in there.
Hmm.
Listening to it, I'm really happy with just that section of the song. It's just a love song. Ted sings the hell out of it, really emotional, and it works. Then the way it comes back into the section afterward and comes back to the chorus and the way it ends,
Yeah.
it's a perfect album closer. And I listened to it, and that's one of those songs I listened to. Is, yeah, I'm really proud about writing that one and how we pulled it off. I just because I hadn't listened to it in a couple of years, and I thought, oh yeah, this works really well.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Agreed.
that's got
Agreed
to
for
be
sure.
yeah. So
Um,
that's mine.
I think your list is I would agree with like wholeheartedly if I was on the airplane with the earbuds in.
Right. Yeah.
They're the kind of listener songs because every
Oh
time
yeah.
I listen to any of those songs that you put on your list, those are the ones that bring me in too. I really get
Yeah.
yeah.
into listening to those.
Yeah. And I don't play live.
Uh,
I don't play live, so that's never in my consideration in writing them. I'm
Yeah.
that's
always
right.
I sit here for 20 hours a day listening to music. I just listen to me. I don't watch TV. I don't watch movies. I listen to music constantly, or I'm writing it. So that's what I do. I'm just into the listening experiences. I put the headphones on and just soak it all in.
So Dave, what's your first choice then for on your list?
It would be let me see. I got three off of the new album, and I think the last one is Days Will Remember
Okay.
because of the strength of the melody on that one. It's really a strong melody, and the vibe of it is just nice and settled, but it doesn't get sleepy. I just really like that song. I think it would be a good breath in a live set.
Hmm.
So that would be mine.
Awesome. Yeah, great song as well.
Um,
We spoke about that as coming from Spock's Beard days, but it's sort of rewritten.
And I
I
was just going to say
go
one
ahead.
more thing about that song is that was from it's very much changed from a song of a band Dave and I were in like 3 centuries ago or whatever. And when Kansas got back together, when Steve Walsh left, uh, and they got a new singer, because I was friends with David Ragsdale, the violinist, and I kept
Hmm.
telling him, if you guys, he would say, that Kansas does not, they're not going to do anything new. Steve just doesn't want to do it. And I told him, if you ever start with a new singer, let me know and we'll write something. And then actually the record company contacted me and said they're gonna be writing for the new album. Do you have anything to submit? And Days Will Remember was one I submitted, a very different version than either in
Mm.
Spock's or this version. But that's how the essence of that song kind of gelled.
It's yeah,
And then they
definitely
decide,
been around a while.
yeah, they decided to end up to write everything within the band within Kansas, so it never went. I think Neil wrote something for a few things for that album, and
Yeah,
they yeah
yeah,
he
I think so too.
submitted.
And they didn't use any of that either. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, they
yeah,
they did
yeah,
it all.
yeah.
Well, I thought maybe Dave, we might make it a three for three because I'm gonna go back to soon but not today for my number one. Also, just a brilliant, brilliant track. It has a great story to it, and then sort of the back end, the where it kind of has that uplifting, very melodic ending, has always been just a home run. I think it's just
Yeah, I love
fantastic.
that one.
Yeah.
Cool.
The other big story one that I almost put in was "He Once Was."
Yeah.
Yeah.
That song is
Great too.
a great storytelling song.
That was on one of my
Yeah.
lists too, but I
Yeah.
just, there's only so many of them to choose.
Right.
I
I
see.
know. Also, honorable mention for me is Why Don't We Run from this album, which
Yeah,
also just missed. But I love that whole kind of Western vibe of that
Yeah.
track with the horns and the whole thing. Just so different and really
Yeah.
cool.
See, anything, it's funny because you mentioned stuff and there are songs um uh that no one ever mentions that I love. Uh but it's like these are my things from the first album. No one ever mentions that, but that was kind of on my list for a while. Um uh so yeah, there's always these songs which people never mention, but I really like. And one day I'll like them, and one day I won't like them, and it it just changes day to day. So it's tough coming up with
Yeah.
these lists.
I love those
It is.
short, kind of quirky ones that you write.
Yeah.
Just another day at the beach,
All right.
and those kind of things. Those were "There Goes My Baby."
Yeah.
I mean, all of those were on my initial list because I just love those. Some of them remind me of kind of Jellyfish, which is
Yeah.
one of my favorite bands of all time.
I had a conversation with
Yeah.
Jimmy a while back, and one song which uh, no one has ever mentioned in an interview, in a review from the first album, "We Write the Ghost Stories," which is it's a short song. It's really quirky.
Yeah.
Just Jimmy's favorite and one of my favorites. But it's one of those songs no one has ever mentioned or thought we should play that live or we should play this on a radio or whatever. It's just there.
Yeah. Well, this was cool. I think we covered a lot of great material.
Cool.
Obviously, there's 5 great albums, and the new album, "Friend of All Creatures," which comes out just in about a month, February
February
14th,
14th, Valentine's Day.
which you can check out.
Yeah.
And yes, it's a very romantic album. You can get it for Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Yeah. I've already had to uh I I'm already going to be having a Valentine's Day dinner, and I'm thinking at the same time I'm gonna have to do something to promote this album at the same time, and I'm thinking, how am I going to be doing? I'm going to be doing this. Yeah. So
Yeah.
yeah, that'll be fun.
Well,
But yeah, the
perfect.
album is available for pre-sale starting, well, depending when you see this, on the 15th of January. You can go to any of the Pattern Seeking Animals, the website or our Facebook page, and all the pre-ordering information will be there. And then GEP, the record label, will start its pre-sales soon after that. I think mostly for the European because I know just shipping overseas can be quite expensive. So, but they're going to start pre-selling it, and yeah, less than a month to go till it comes out.
Awesome. Well, great catching up with you guys. Always fun talking and checking out
Yeah,
some new music. And good luck
absolutely.
with the record. And definitely see you guys around soon. We'll talk again. But thanks for joining. Bye, everybody.
Later.
Bye bye.
Hey, thanks for checking out the podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, wherever you get your podcasts. Follow us on all our socials and progreport.com. And we'll see you all again real soon. Thanks.